Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on to yet another video where we're going to be interviewing directors who are working on the short films for the South African Independent Film Festival. Today is really, really exciting. I got Rakefet over here, and I said that right, correct?
You did.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, and she was the director of Boo. So we're going to jump straight into these questions. Very unique film. I really, really enjoyed it. Can you do all of the viewers at home a favor? Can you just tell them a synopsis of what the film is about?
Oh yeah, sure. Boo is about a woman having a difficult night, trying to keep her sobriety, and she's kind of forced to make the decision between what she loves and who she loves.
That's a clever way of putting it up without giving away the
Without
twist.
saying anything at all.
No, I will say, for those of you at home, the twist is absolutely phenomenal. Not what I was expecting at all. But I actually want to talk about the elements that are exposed within the film as well, because it definitely starts to head down, the direction of gender-based violence. Is that something you were wanting to put a spotlight on in this film?
Yeah, well, I'm a victim of rape in the past. So for some reason it comes up in a lot of my films. For some reason, I don't know why, maybe because it's something I'm trying to deal with, but and so it just tends to sneak into my projects. I don't even really intend to highlight it necessarily. It just kind of does. And in this case, in the case of Boo, I mean, I wanted to show how, she was very vulnerable, and also obviously trying to throw the audience off a little bit as to how vulnerable she actually is or is not. And it does have a bit of a revenge tinge to it, of course, because, sexual violence is violent, and those people should be punished. And so I guess that kind of comes out in my work, because who doesn't want to kill a rapist every so often? Not in real life, but at least in my projects.
No, I have to say, like, it's great that you are bringing a light to it, both now this comedic sense and the fact that we're having this interview, but you are shining a very big spotlight on a very, very serious problem, and I think you did a phenomenal job with that. I was like taken aback, actually, in fact, when watching the film, with just how boldly you presented it, but also the fact that you have a protagonist in Boo who is willing to defend herself, which I thought was great and phenomenal as well. But talking about Boo and talking about how she was vulnerable, but also not so vulnerable, you did such a good job giving her that name. And we're not going to reveal the twist or anything like that, but it's clever that you've named her Boo in the fact that it's almost contradictory in the fact that you've got the Boo, oh, this is my Boo, she's so lovely, and then you've got the
and also Boo.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it is a bit of the title at the end is a bit of a punchline, I guess, sort of. Although there is really nothing funny about the film itself. I don't think that there's anything really funny about it, but it did have that kind of a punchline feel at the end to just have that title come up at the end, because that's where the twist happens. Yeah, I mean, that's intentional. And that's how I always kind of pictured it being, that once it was revealed, the truth is revealed, that you're like, you should be taken aback. I hope that's the goal, at least.
So we've tried our best to talk about this without revealing the twist. But how did you conceptualize this? How did you come up with the concept? And how far did you want to go? How much did you want to leave unresolved? How much did you want to leave a mystery? Just give me a ballpark answer without revealing the twist as to how you came about with the story.
It's always such a dance. And it's been a while since I've done Boo press, because it's been out for a long time. So I've been speaking about other films. So excuse me if I'm out of practice, is all I'm saying. But how did I come? I wanted to make a horror film, and my first film was Jackson Love, which is also playing there, was more of a thriller, and I never really considered it to be a horror film, but people were like calling it a horror film. And so when I made my second film, which is Boo, I was like, well, I'm going to make this a horror film. Like, I'm going to go into this knowing it's a horror film, intending it to be a horror film, etc. it was based on a story that my boyfriend at the time, who called me Boo, like that was his nickname for me. He heard he used to pick up his friend after work or something, and then I guess one day he went to go pick him up, and he called his friend called him before he got there and was like, "Don't pick me up at the usual place. Something weird is going on." He was like freaking out, and when he got there, the guy was just like beside himself. He's like, it was just, kind of how she is in the movie when she gets picked up, and obviously not covered in blood, but and it turned out that this guy was afraid because there was some weird dude walking around wearing garlic around his neck and like antagonizing people. And so he was just like, this guy is. Anyway, so that made me think of vampires, obviously, because he clearly was, whatever. And that's kind of where it kind of was born, I suppose. And it also speaks a lot about like, insecurity about who you are, and if somebody really loves you, and if they knew who you really were, would they really love you? And would they love you despite of that? Would they love you because of that? And also just violence in relationships and violence in society. And, there was a lot of different like kind of notes to it, I guess, but a lot of it came out of like, there's a lot of like, for me, I don't want to speak for anybody else. For me, I tend to have some like self-hatred, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not pretty enough, and I'm not this enough, and I'm not whatever enough. And you wonder, how can somebody love me if I'm this person, or I'm this way, or I look this way, or I feel this way, or what I believe this way, or whatever. And for Boo in the movie, her actual name is Debbie, but they use it like once, so like nobody gets it, but it's okay. But he calls her Boo, and for her, like he really loves her, and I think he even would have loved her once he knew who she was, but unfortunately, he did not get the opportunity.
So, Rakefet, as we head into the end of this interview, I know you're working on a ton of other projects. I know we have others of your films here in the South African Independent Film Festival. Can you just tell me a little bit more of what you're busy working on, and then also where people can follow you, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, if you have a website, a newsletter, anything like that, just so that the viewers can also follow you on your adventures?
Yeah, for sure. So Jack's in Love is the other film that's playing at SA Indie Fest. It was my first film, which is also, if you miss it at the festival, it's also on Amazon Prime and it's on YouTube, etc. But better to see it at the festival on the big screen for sure. And then I just finished my third film called Still, which is what I've been working on recently. Still is based on a miscarriage that I had a couple of years ago. I tend to make horror with a message. That's my thing. And it tends to be about horrific love, different kinds of horrific love stories. In this case, it was a love story about a child that never happened. And still, I mean, I'll be submitting it to SA Indie Fest as well eventually, but right now we're waiting to hear from Sundance and Tribeca and all the big festivals, and hoping that we get like a really big premiere. I wrote, directed, starred, and produced that one as well. And it's kind of my follow-up to Boo. And it's a much more serious topic. And it still has horror elements, of course, but it's also just kind of a heavy drama. And I'm hoping that people get to see it. And my whole goal with that film is to raise awareness around miscarriage and pregnancy loss and how it shouldn't be a taboo subject, and we should talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, women don't get the support that they need, and families don't get the support that they need, and it's so common and it's just not discussed enough. And so that's my goal with that. As far as following me, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Rakefet. So it's at Kef827 and at Cyclamen Films, which is my production company. You can go to cyclamenfilms.com, search me or the film name. Even Boo has its own page on Facebook as well. And it's really not hard to find me. I'm all over social media except for Twitter or /X. I'm done with that. I'm kind of over that. But everywhere else you should be able to find me. and kind of follow along. And hopefully still will be out soon. Starting in January, we're going to start, submitting more frequently to more places, and hopefully one day it'll play there as well.
Well, honestly, I just want to say thank you so much for not just your incredible works of art, but also your ability to be vulnerable, not just in your films, but also in this interview. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure the viewers do as well. I really hope you enjoyed the rest of your night. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It means a lot. Thank you.